Have you ever felt like you weren't alone, even when you were? I mean truly alone, locked in your bedroom, in the dead of night. That's where my story begins. In my quiet little apartment in Washington, a place I used to think was my sanctuary. It all started so simply, so innocently, that I almost dismissed it as a trick of the light or my own tired mind playing games. It was a Tuesday night, nothing special about it. I was exhausted from a long day at work, and all I wanted was to crawl into bed and drift off. I did my usual routine, brushed my teeth, changed into my pajamas, and checked my phone one last time. I turned off the lamp on my nightstand, plunging the room into that familiar, comforting darkness, pierced only by the faint glow of the streetlights outside my window. I settled into my pillows, closed my eyes, and let out a long sigh, ready for sleep. But as I lay there, on the very edge of consciousness, a sound pulled me back. A soft, almost imperceptible crick. It was a kind of sound you're not sure you actually heard. I told myself it was just the old buildings settling, or the pipes groaning. I kept my eyes shut, trying to find that sweet spot of sleep again. But then, a feeling washed over me. A cold, prickly sensation on the back of my neck. The feeling of being watched. I fought it. I really did. I told myself I was being paranoid. I was just tired. But the feeling was so intense, so insistent, that I couldn't ignore it. With a reluctant groan, I opened my eyes. And that's when I saw it. The closet door. It was open, just a crack, maybe a few inches, but definitely open. A sliver of absolute blackness against the gray shadows of my room. Now, this was strange for a couple of reasons. First, I am meticulous about my space. Almost obsessively so. Everything has its place, and closet doors are meant to be closed. I distinctly remembered shutting it before I got into bed. It was part of my nightly ritual. Second, the door had a tendency to stick. It wasn't one of those doors that just swung open on its own. You had to give it a good firm pull. I sighed, annoyed. I swung my legs out of bed, the floorboards cold against my bare feet. I walked over to the closet, pushed the door shut until I heard the familiar click of the latch catching, and then walked back to my bed. I got under the covers, pulled them up to my chin, and closed my eyes again. The image of that dark gap was still burned into my mind, but I was determined to sleep. I took a deep breath, and another. I tried to clear my mind, to think of nothing, and then, creak, the exact same sound as before. My heart started to pound. No, it couldn't be. It had to be my imagination. I kept my eyes squeezed shut, my knuckles white from clenching the sheets. The feeling of being watched returned, stronger this time, like a physical weight pressing down on me. I could almost feel a pair of eyes on my face, studying me. I lay there for what felt like an eternity, my mind racing. Was I dreaming? Was I already asleep? Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know. Slowly, hesitantly, I opened my eyes. My own eyes adjusted to the dim light, and my gaze shot straight to the closet. It was open, wider this time. A dark, gaping maw in the corner of my room. A wave of pure, icy fear crashed over me. This wasn't a coincidence. The building wasn't settling. I sat bolt upright in bed, my breath catching in my throat. My mind, desperate for a logical explanation, started throwing out possibilities. A draft. No. The window was closed. The foundation shifting. Unlikely to happen twice in 5 minutes with such precision. Then a crazy, terrifying idea began to form. A little experiment. I stared at the open closet door, my heart hammering against my ribs. I reached over and flicked on my bedside lamp. The room was flooded with warm yellow light, chasing the shadows away. The closet was just a closet. Its door was ajar, revealing the dark shapes of my clothes hanging inside. Nothing out of the ordinary. I got out of bed again, my movements slow and deliberate. I walked to the closet, pushed the door shut, and made sure the latch clicked firmly into place. I even gave it a little tug to make sure it was secure. It was. I walked back to my bed, but this time, I didn't get under the covers. I sat on the edge, facing the closet, the lamp still on. Here we go. I kept my eyes fixed on the door. I took a deep breath, held it, and then, for just a second, I closed my eyes. 1 Mississippi. I snapped them open. The closet door was closed, exactly as I had left it. A small, shaky laugh escaped my lips. See, it was nothing, just my exhausted brain playing tricks on me. I was so tired I was starting to hallucinate, but I had to be sure. I repeated the experiment. Eyes open, staring at the closed door. I closed my eyes again, this time for a little longer. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. I opened them. The door was still closed. Okay. I was calming down. Maybe the fear had passed. Maybe whatever weirdness was happening had stopped. I decided to try one more time, just to prove to myself that I was being ridiculous. I focused on the dark wood of the door, the brass handle, the thin line where it met the frame. I closed my eyes, and this time, I didn't count. I just waited, listening to the frantic beat of my own heart. I tried to make it a full minute. The silence in the room was deafening. The only sound was a faint ringing in my ears. When I finally opened my eyes, a scream caught in my throat. The door was wide open, not just a crack, not a few inches. It was swung all the way open, flat against the wall. The darkness inside seemed deeper, more absolute than any shadow. It felt like it was drinking the light from the lamp. I scrambled backwards on my bed until my back hit the headboard. I couldn't breathe. It was a simple, impossible equation. Eyes open, the door stays shut. Eyes closed, the door opens. It was a direct response to me, to my perception. It was like a terrifying game of peekaboo where I was the only one playing, and I had no idea what the prize was for losing. What was in there? What was it that could only move, only act, when it wasn't being observed? And then, a sound came from the closet. It wasn't a creak this time, it was a breath. A long, slow, rattling exhalation, like air being forced through dry leaves. It was a patient sound, a waiting sound. It knew I had to close my eyes eventually. It knew I couldn't stay awake forever. I spent the rest of the night sitting up in bed, the lamp on my eyes burning from staring at that black rectangle in the corner of my room. I didn't dare blink for more than a second. Every time I did, I half expected to see a figure stepping out of the darkness. I thought about calling the police, but what would I say? Hello, my closet opens when I'm not looking at it. They'd think I was crazy. I thought about running, just grabbing my keys and getting out of there. But I was frozen, trapped by a fear so primal I couldn't move. The sun finally started to rise, painting the sky in shades of gray and pink. The first rays of morning light streamed through my window, and the oppressive darkness in the closet seemed to retreat, becoming just ordinary shadow again. The breathing stopped. The feeling of being watched faded. Exhaustion, deeper than any I'd ever known, finally claimed me. I couldn't fight it anymore. My eyelids felt like they were made of lead. As my head lolled to the side and I finally succumbed to a fitful, dreamless sleep, the last thing I saw was the closet. The door was wide open, and when I woke up hours later, sweaty and disoriented in the full light of day, it was still open. It had stayed open all night, watching me sleep. I moved out the next day. I didn't pack everything. I just took what I could carry and left. I never went back. I don't know what was in that closet, I don't want to know, but sometimes, even now, in my new apartment, when I'm lying in bed at night, I get that old, familiar feeling, that cold prickle on my neck, and I have to get up, turn on every light in the house, and double-check that every single closet door is latched, because I know something is out there, something that waits patiently in the dark for you to close your eyes. Thanks for listening, and if you have your own story you'd like to share, drop it in the comments below. Stay safe. And don't forget to subscribe for more strange tales.